Hello everyone, Trophy Wine Hunter. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm doing a review of a recent wine night I had with my buddies. It was a Bordeaux wine night with many 1980s and 90s Bordeaux's. We had 7 wines, but one of them was corked. We did the wines in bunches of 2, blind. And so I got most of them right, so I was pretty happy. But again, it's not that difficult if you know all the wines already. So the first wine was a 1989 Domaine de Chevalier from Pessac. Really like this winery. I think it's very underrated. This year was a blend of 65% Cabernet Sauvignon, 30% Merlot, and 5% Cabernet Franc. The 89 vintage I was really interested in trying because I think the vintage is kind of underrated, but maybe I'm going back on it based on the tastings I had here. I really liked it. It was fully mature, obviously. My tasting notes, it still had some dried plums with some nuttiness and black truffles, earth, and tea leaves on the aftertaste. Fully mature, you should drink it now, but still a very, very pleasant wine, a great wine to start off the night. You could tell there was a lot of earthiness and graveliness in this wine. My rating was 91 points. We compared it to the 2003 Domaine de Chevalier Rouge, same blend of wines. Again, I like this a little bit better than the 89. The 89 was fully mature. Whereas this wine I thought had still some life into it. It's very vibrant. I really like this. Very youthful. It's in its drinking window, but I think it can go many more years, maybe like 5 to 10 more years easily. My drinking notes were dark raspberries, plums, very integrated tannins with oak and tobacco on the aftertaste. There's a slight bit of spice on the end, but really enjoyed this wine and enjoyed the kind of vibrance of the fruit and the balance of the tannins and the oak. So really well-made Bordeaux wine. My rating was 93 points. Next wine was my wine of the night. It's the Chateau Palmer 1990, and made me rethink my hypothesis that the 88 and 89 vintages are underrated and the 90 is overrated. This was a powerhouse wine, my wine of the night. Wow, that's all I can say. It's a blend of 54% Cabernet Sauvignon, 37% Merlot, 7% Cabernet Franc, and 2% Petit Verdot. And again, the more I drink Palmer, the more I'm impressed with this wine. It is stunning. It's still youthful, yet powerful. It's in its drinking window, but it could easily drink for another 15 years. Silky smooth, so refined, so in balance. Cedar, leather, integrated with rich dark berries, mocha, cigars on the aftertaste. It is just one of these wines you want to drink all night long. Crazy good. And that's my experience with a lot of Palmers recently. My rating 97 points. Next wine is the 1990 Trotanoy from the Pomerol region. 100% Merlot. I was actually really surprised by the power of this wine. We had it with the Palmer and it stood up quite well to the Palmer. My tasting notes: grilled meat, black plums and tobacco on the nose, very gravelly and earthy with dried raspberries on the palate. Thought it was in its drinking window, but still has a lot of life. I'd say I'd drink up in the next 5 to 8 years. My score was 95 points. Next wine was the 1995 Lynch. Slightly disappointed with this. The 1995 vintage I have been disappointed with. It's supposed to be a great vintage. I actually prefer 96 in most wines in Bordeaux just because it's a lot softer. 95 is quite austere and still close. So that's what I found with this wine. It's a blend, 76% Cabernet Sauvignon, 15% Merlot, 7% Cabernet Franc, and 2% Petit Verdot. My notes was I found it austere. I found it mature, but it's still quite tannic. So I'm not sure if those tannins will ever kind of soften it still kind of feels closed. There is dark fruit there. There's a minerally aftertaste. It's still an excellent wine, but just not the best example of Lynch that I've had. My rating is 92 points. Next wine is a wine that I've reviewed on this channel, the 1999 Tertre Rotebeauf. And again, it was useful to do it blind because sometimes you actually don't appreciate how good the wine is after you drank it, and you kind of underappreciate it. So tasting it blind with the Lynch 95, I preferred this wine and was so pleasantly surprised that this was the 99 Tertre. Very consistent with my previous notes for this wine, so I shouldn't be surprised it's such an excellent wine. Continues to impress me. It was very floral, very perfumey on the aroma with beef, black currants, and oak. And then on the palate, it was black plums, toast, tobacco, cocoa. Very rich, very nice aftertaste, medium bodied. In its drinking window, but very nice acidity and freshness. My rating is consistent with my previous tastings of it, which is 93 points. Next wine was the 1995 Angelus, and unfortunately it was corked. And I have difficulties spotting corked wines. I don't have the confidence in myself sometimes to be able to spot it. So I was fortunate that the sommeliers did spot it for me, and I could learn from that. So, but I still wanted to taste and smell it just to learn. And so from my perspective, what it smelled like is like it was really muted on the nose. It wasn't really stinky, but it was kind of a little bit wet. Smell, but not very much smell. But on the taste, it kind of tasted like cardboard, which doesn't taste like 95 Angelus. So it didn't have much taste to it. It was completely kind of zapped all the fruit out of it. So that's kind of the feeling of a corked wine. So that was unfortunate. Then at the end of the night, we got to taste Old Burgundy, which is kind of neat. It was a 1985 Hudelot Noellet, the Vosne Romanee Premier Cru Les Suchots. And it was neat to taste. It was a little bit like vinegary and acidic, but still very drinkable. My tasting notes was balsamic vinegar, mushrooms, and funky in a good way on the aroma. And then on the palate, dried cherries, mushrooms, and a slight bit of spice. So really neat to taste that a Old Burgundy, and I thought the bottle was in very good condition. All in all, it was a really fun tasting. Good to see my friends and buddies. I think we were divided in terms of the wine of the night. Half of us thought it was the Palmer, half of us thought it was the Trotanoy, with a couple of votes going to the 03 Domaine de Chevalier. But again, it's always fun to compare and contrast, and I was really having a great time with my friends. Hope you've enjoyed this video. Until next time, happy drinking.